Hey everybody, I hope you're doing pretty well. And today I'm going to be talking to you about TownStar. Why? Because they did some major changes to the game. They came out a few days ago. Some people don't like them, some people do. But I wanted to hold my judgment until I tried to play the game. I tried to make one of the new builds I thought would be more competitive with the new rule set. And I wanted to see how these changes would be more difficult or more helpful for me. And overall, now you'd be surprised, I think, to think that these updates so far are pretty good, but one of them is not in place that could change my mind a little bit about it. So first, let's go ahead and get into what's been going on. So TownStar did a big announcement that they were making major changes to the game and how it would work. And they also changed some of the earnings on their NFTs, though I haven't seen that a sheet come out yet. I just know that I'm earning less than I was. So something isn't earning as much as it was before, but nonetheless, they've made a lot of changes. So they basically did a lot of things where they changed really fundamentally what it takes to make certain items to make the game a little bit more difficult, but also the cost and the income of certain items to make them easier to obtain or more difficult to obtain. And in general, I feel that they've made an interesting balance that may have made the game seem more difficult to you, but also highlights the values of their NFTs a lot better. And I think that that's important. I don't think you should be able to make the most broken builds in this game with a single wheat stand or with only a rare wheat stand. If you're going to have the most broken builds, you need to have a legendary or ancient item. You need to have the top tier stuff that costs the most, because then you invested the most. And I do feel that in general, these changes kind of broke some of the builds that were dominating, and didn't break them, but slowed them down tremendously, while at the same time speeding up some of the builds that nobody was using to make them competitive. So you speed those up, you bring the other ones down, and all of a sudden the game looks a lot more competitive. It looks like I could be making cakes. I could be making pumpkin pies. I could be making peppermints. And if I want to keep just making uniforms or just making wine, well, now those builds got more complicated to manage. They're not as simple as they used to be, and they're not going to be near as fast. So in general, I think those things are good. So let's go over the changes so you understand them. So one of the things they did is they changed building costs. So they made an ATV cost a little bit more. They changed the building requirement to 10 wood and 1 lumber and one and energy and the 5 energy still, but I mean 10 energy, so it's 10 10 10. So they changed around the buildings a lot so that they need less lumber. But why? Because they changed lumber to needing 8 wood. So this is kind of something interesting. If you look at the building costs in general before, they cost, if things cost, if they have to have 1 lumber instead of 10, or instead of 2 or 3 or 5 or whatever, but they need 8 wood now. It's just all a new kind of thing that we'll have to learn and get used to and balance. They also increase the wages of things. Now, the wage increases to me don't really matter too much, except for you have to plan out things a little bit better before you build them. In general, I feel like we still make way more money than we need in this game. And so overall, wage increases to me are fine. They maybe slow us down a little bit, but not a big deal. Changing the star points on things pretty dramatically is kind of crazy, though. So we'll get into all of that, but it also could just mean that we're just going to be in a time where scores are going to be a little bit lower. So going into here, so baguettes, they just lowered the price on. Bakeries, they increased the price. They changed it to needing 10 wood, 10 lumber, 10 energy to build. So they're making them more like an end game item. And they increased the wages. Cakeries now cost $1 million to make, and they also cost more wood, energy. So they're making the end game a lot more expensive and take a lot more items to build those end game buildings. Candy Kings, they totally reevaluated, which is good because they weren't a very sustainable build. So now Instead of costing 4 peppermint, you're going to need 10 peppermint, but you're only going to need 3 sugars and only 5 energy. So that's a way different build. Before, with peppermints, you had to make an insane amount of energy to make candy kings, and it was really counterproductive. Now you're going to put a lot less energy into them, a lot more peppermint, so your farm's going to be more peppermint and sugar build. And I'm actually going to build a candy king build now to kind of see where that is at and how many stars it can produce. I'll be looking to do that in the next couple weeks during this next month where we're playing in the play to earn places. Right now, today, I'm going to show you a cake town that I built. And then, their price went down in how much cash they get, and their points went down. So you're not going to get as many points for these, but in theory, you're going to be able to produce them a lot quicker because they need less sugar. And sugar was going to be kind of a bottleneck trying to create sugar and peppermint and an incredible amount of energy, which could have been difficult. No one was really running them. So it's interesting to see if this is going to make Candy Kings kind of a competitive thing. Chicken coops got cheaper, and they also got slower, though, because now there's only 2 chickens per coop, so it takes longer for them to eat. But this also means that chickens don't dominate your feed barrel as much. So it's a very interesting thing. I don't mind the change to the chickens at all, making them cheaper and slowing down how quickly they eat. It still lets you get kind of an interesting play. Chickens are now an interesting early game build too. If you're in the plains and you have all of that passive feed sitting around out there, you can just go ahead and throw down chicken coops early, and they'll go ahead and just produce you eggs over on the side. And now they only cost 15k, so that's an interesting early game build that some people may try. Chromium, they lowered the amount of lumber it needs. They did this for a lot of the things because they increased the amount of lumber, the amount of wood that goes into it. So if you look at it overall, it used to cost 3 lumber, which was 15 wood. Now it's going to cost 8 wood because it's only 1 lumber. But also they've talked about making wood take twice as long to grow. That's the part that isn't in the game yet, so I don't know how bad that's going to affect builds. And they really need to get that in there and that change updated, because it's hard to adjust our builds to know if we have enough wood or not, knowing that wood is going to take twice as long to grow. Now, the fabric pant got more expensive, just like most big builds. Tractors, though, the workers all got cheaper, which is interesting. So they're changing kind of this idea that you used to kind of upgrade your workers, I think, kind of in the late game, because it was so expensive to upgrade them, and it was cheaper just to start making the more premium items. Now it's going to kind of go more in order, where you're going to be looking to maybe upgrade some of your workers before you actually get those big premium buildings, so that you can get the most out of them. It's definitely changed the way that we build things. Like the loggers at 250 were so annoying before. Now they're only 75k, so you can get those faster loggers working a little bit quicker. Lumberyard got way cheaper, which is going to be helpful for a lot of people. It was so annoying that you had to save up 50k to buy a lumber mill, and that it was kind of it was just something that didn't make any sense. So they made that cheaper. Milk barns got cheaper. Mines got cheaper. A lot of things like lower grade got cheaper, but then they upgraded certain things like the paved road to needing a lumber instead of wood. So now it needs 3 wood and a lumber. And then they also increase the cost of them to 30k. So you're not going to pave your roads early anymore. This is something that's going to be done a little bit later in the game, which was kind of interesting to play through. Ponds cost less to make and sell for less. So now you're not going to get that same early rush that you got in the forest from selling all of those ponds. I think that makes the map a little bit more fair, because it was kind of unfair that if you did a build in a forest, you just got to start with a crap load of ponds. So in general, I think that evens that out a little bit more. A lot of this changes seem like it was evening up the game to make map spaces a little more equal and make builds a little bit more competitive all over the place. Pumpkin pies were changed down to 6 pumpkins, and pumpkins were changed down to only needing 10 water. That completely changes the idea of making pumpkins. It makes them actually something that's playable and interesting. I think making a pumpkin pie build would be interesting. I'd like to to make you a candy cane, a pumpkin pie, a new cake build, all of these things, but it's going to be hard. One of the reasons why the cake build in general, the whole bakery builds got better is because it now takes less brine to make brine, less wheat to make flour, same sugar to make sugar. But with those other ones being decreased, it's a lot easier for you to push things more into sugar production because you need less of your map taking place of salt production to still have a good amount of salt and still have a good amount of flour. In general, you can go through see here's the windmills got cheaper, so it's easier to go windmills earlier at 7,500. They're slightly faster, and they also produce things a lot cheaper, and you start to see that once you get into the game. Wild trees are now going to grow at 90 seconds though. So if you start in a forest, you're going to have that tree advantage. And since regular trees grow at 60 seconds, wild trees are actually going to be something kind of interesting. This does change the game a lot if you decide to start in those. I built in the desert this time though, because one of the other things they did is they made it so that regular trees only take 5 water to grow instead of 7. This is very interesting for the kind of maps that you can produce. So let's go ahead and take a look at my current town, and I'll talk you through some of the changes and what it did to my builds. So like I said, if you look here at any of the places that are producing brine, this is only 4 brine and 2 wood now to actually produce the salt. So I only need this much salt to have a pretty good salt production. I think I'm currently producing about 111 salt per hour, which is matching up with my milk production of about 117. And in a cake build, I want those to match up because they're the main ingredients in my butter. So you can see over here, this is something that I wanted to highlight. My legendary Bit True Wheat stand is now just a powerhouse item. And this makes sense to me. The legendary items should be powerhouses within the game. The ancient items should be even more powerhouse, because this one item is making all of these windmills make wheat, because it only takes 2 now. So all of these are being funded by my windmill, but these also take 2. So these ones right here are also being funded by this one, because it now takes 2 wheat in order to make a feed. So this slowed down the feed rush a lot for anybody out there who was doing it with just a single wheat stand, or even if you were doing it with a rare wheat stand, because you're just not going to be able to pump out quite as much feed as quickly. They didn't increase the cost for selling feed either, which I didn't fully understand when they first put out the changes. So you're having to put in twice as much resources or have twice of a good item making them, or you're going to have to go ahead and not go that route. And so I like that, because honestly the feed thing had become a little bit too much of an early game rush. It had taken away the whole reason to even start on a plain and have pastures, and also it was just a kind of a crazy thing. Now the reason I picked this spot is because I had to have an ocean so that my salt would grow fast. I put a road here because this third row is kind of an interesting place to grow stuff. Trees will grow slower here because they get salt from the ocean. Salt doesn't grow very fast in the third row, so it's not very efficient. And I just wanted to see if this was enough salt. I've kind of felt like when you're going to be doing a cake or a baguette thing, designing, having too much salt growing can be an issue, because just this much salt can power a build. But that also means that if you were going to be doing a double ocean, it'd be very interesting now to see if a salt rush would be playable again, because it only takes 4 salt and 2 wood, so you could be producing quite a lot of salt. So that's something that's going to be pretty interesting. My cake build right now is producing about 8 cakes per hour. I don't know if that's a competitive cake build. This is my first time trying to build this new thing, and right now in general my farm is producing too much wood. Oh look, there we have some cakes going off. Yay, bye cakes. because my wood thing is sitting here with 20, and occasionally my guys are destroying wood. So even with all of these windmills here, this much wood is producing way too much wood because they lowered them down to only needing 2. But I don't have the 1-minute timer. These should be taking twice as long to grow. I want to see what this build looks like once those timers are in place, because I could tweak this a little bit. I could maybe destroy a couple of these things and build a few more towers. I could put like a salt one over here because I do have my salty bot, so he would fill it up, which would be kind of an interesting thing to have. So there's definitely some adjustments and changes I'll do to this once the actual final timers get in place. Now, just if you're looking at my build, you don't have a legendary tower, how would you adjust this build? Well, simply you would have a little bit less wood, you'd maybe have a little bit less water, and see this row here, you'd take away these 2 cows, and you'd move these 2 chickens to right here, making this a fast growing row. And this row right here would be all wheat. You wouldn't have all these NFTs sitting here and these chickens over in this area, because you would need to be growing wheat. I don't need to grow wheat because I'm able to power 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 windmills with 2 wheat for my legendary tower. I could even do more if I needed to by putting some over here. So this is now a extremely powerful item within the game again, and I like that because before it just didn't seem like it was that powerful because these things just took too much wheat to grow. It needed 5, so in the past it would have only been powering these 3. And maybe I could have put it at a spot like this and made it to power 5, but still in the past that was the most it could passively power. Now these big legendary items can power, a whole block of things producing wheat. It's absolutely amazing. And so this is something I think they did that was actually pretty good. They highlighted the power of NFTs within their game, and that was really the only way that this game is going to become somewhat, valuable when it comes to Towncoin. Because what is Towncoin really good for now? I'm still very upset that they're taking away its ability to go ahead and support Town Power. Our Gala level, I'm Gala level 38. After that change is fully in effect, I'd be about Gala level 7. I'm still trying to increase my Gala level, but it's hard because Towncoin is going down, 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 and Gala coin has spiked a tiny bit. We're currently at you need to trade about 2.5 town coin to get 1 Gala coin. I need to increase my Gala stack by a whole bunch, so I'm like a lot of players forced to just be swapping town coin into Gala coin so I can get my Gala level higher. I really wish they would come out and do that announcement of any changes that are coming to that, but it's really frustrating. But it's still finally cool to see that they've really increased the value of NFTs. Some of the ways they did this: the power plants now cost a lot of money and are not something that can be made early on in the game. So you're going to be stuck with a whole bunch of windmills unless you went ahead and bought a Tesla coil or a solar panel. I have both of those, and it allowed me to just play the early game and not have any problem with power, even though I didn't get to make my power plants until much later in the game. What did it do to the rush for sheep? I went ahead and did it, but it wasn't very effective. It's just it took longer for them to eat because there were less sheep coming out of the pen. You make less money for the wool because they made the wool rush just much less effective. And so all of this just made me think, man, I probably should have just set up a whole bunch of windmills making flour, and at the same time, because there was no reason for me to be spending all that money to be doing a wool rush. So it's a very interesting thing. I kind of like my build, and I'm showing it to you. I don't know if this is a super competitive build. I do know, like, this placement up here, a pro would probably laugh at me on this. I think these things are kind of in okay spots to make sure the sugar ends up mostly in this one and the salt ends up mostly in this one. Then these ones here are doing salt. These ones in this area are all doing sugar. These ones over here are all doing my flour. I think this is probably in a weird spot. I don't know. This is my part I never really mastered in the game, was making sure everybody walked really efficiently. So that was my quick little look at the TownStar game and the changes, and just giving you my opinion. in general, just as a quick recap, they made the game more difficult for people who don't have NFTs. To me, that's okay. If you didn't invest in the NFTs, it's going to be a little bit harder for you. Did they make it impossible for you? No, it's just going to take you longer. The game's going to play a little bit slower. I don't think that's a big problem, especially because they said they've changed their kind of look at this game from being something that we play over a week all the time to something that can be designed for seasons that kind of last a month. I still think the game, it took me 2 days to make this town. This town is pretty much complete with no real big problems. I don't see any reason I would have to change a whole bunch. I do have a few open tiles, so I have like these ones over here. I could play around a little bit with that. I had to put these here because I didn't buy good enough NFTs, and these only provide 2 passive, and I needed 3 passive for my my 2 cake makers. And then I have 3 batter makers. Just to give you an idea, I have 3 butter makers. And right now I'm being really pretty efficient in the fact that they're using all of the stuff I'm producing. Like, it's not very often that I would sell milk. I never get to 10 milk. I never get to 10 salt. I never get to 10. I think I hit 10 eggs sometimes. But I also never have any sugar laying around. So I need to get a little bit more sugar production. So what I'll probably be doing is building a couple more windmills here and here, and I'll be going ahead and putting these 2 this and this over to here, and then put 2 more windmills here building sugar, and see if that gets my sugar production up to where I could produce things a little bit quicker. The town couldn't go much quicker without producing a little bit more wheat or a little bit more salt and milk. So I think I'm going to try to max it out on this build and then go from there. Now we're going to end the video by quickly looking at the Gala Games page here. So one of the things that was kind of exciting I wanted to touch on, they launched this game called Town Crush. Now Town Crush, like, this is the most blatant copy of everything. It's the closest thing I've ever seen to somebody getting sued. This is Candy Crush. But they called it Town Crush. Why is this exciting that they copied a game and put it out? And it is designed for mobile, and we'll go play it for a second. You'll see it is basically Candy Crush. But why is it exciting? Because it's running on Gala Chain. So see, it's their first game that they're running on Gala Chain. They put out a token here they're calling Test Token. Here I'm outing myself as a big Ethereum whale. No, not really. I don't even have an Ethereum. I have a whole lot of Town coin sitting over here, but I have to turn it into a bunch of Gala coin. And it's not easy to do that right now. But still, we got this new test coin that came out, and we got this new game that's running on their chain. We'll play one round here really quick. Sorry, I can't. Oh, hold on. Let me turn that down. Wait. There we go. And that way you don't have to hear it. Oh, I don't have any more remaining lives, so I can't even play. Oh, wait. There. I bought a life. Huh, I guess I'll buy an executioner too. And then we'll play. So basically, within the game, they've made Candy Crush, but where you earn these test tokens, and you have to buy them to get your lives. You get some free lives in the beginning, and then the more tokens you earn, the better you can get. Now, it's a real simplistic game. You can see there's nothing special here. There's nothing to write home about. You're not going to be like, oh, look at me and my crazy, look at this amazing game they put out. It's all going to look very similar to you. It's got a funny little soundtrack in the background. You're going to see here at the end, I completed the level, got myself 500 more coins. So now if I want to play the next level, I'm going to have to go back into the store. And you can even see the map looks a lot like Candy Crush. Oh, I don't have any lives. So I'm going to have to go here. I'm going to buy another life. There we go. Close out of there, close out of there. And now we can play one more level really quick. So this game in general to me not super exciting. It is interesting to see them launching a mobile game, mobile first, but more than that, it's the fact that we're getting our first look at the fact that they have the Gala chain up and working, and they're going to be doing hopefully some exciting things with that. In general, the Gala chain is something that's very important to us, so that we're able to go ahead and get some like internal things they were working on working for us, so we're able to live with the fact that town coins only worth a nickel because we don't have to go out to Ethereum anymore and have Ethereum taking those fees. So there is some exciting stuff going on. It's, I don't know if it makes up for the fact that they did that big change to Towncoin. They take away one of its use cases, but I think we are entering into a place where they're starting to make some changes to Towncoin that actually TownStar that really supports their NFTs. They've put out a game here that is meant to be mobile played with their first coin running on the Gala chain. And so that's something pretty exciting. We still have a very big collections of games to come in the Gala ecosystem. So I'm starting to become bullish on Gala games again. They needed to get their chain out. They got their first game out and running on it, and they're testing on it. So we could see Towncoin porting over to that if things go well, and we could see Tankcoin coming out on there. I think one of the things they might have been waiting for actually launching Tankcoin is Gala chain if it was close enough, because those coins will work better on a no-fee, low-cost chain, and that's one of the reasons why they decided to make their own second layer for their own games and their own ecosystems and their own coins. Superior came out recently. This game has looked like it's been pretty cool. I didn't really cover it because I didn't have time. We still have Legend Reborn to launch, Walking Dead to be coming out soon. They just had another Vox drop here, and that sold out, so that went well. Legacy is still coming. Mirandus is still the MMO that might change the whole face of the play-to-earn world. You got Echoes of Empire and Last Expedition, two different types of games, where Last Exhibition is going to be a survival FPS via Halo type game, whereas Echoes of Empire is going to be more of a strategy game. So it's going to be pretty fun. And Fortified, the tower defense game, they actually said might be coming out soon. So this big staple of a large amount of games might actually just continue to get bigger, but more of them might start to be playable and live, and tokens might be running on their own ecosystem. So I do think this is a time to take another look at the game. I do like changes to games that highlight NFTs in the play-to-earn world. I do think that the game should be easier for me because I have this Legendary Bit True Wheat stand. I just do. That's part of the play-to-earn world. There is a little bit of buy-to-win in play-to-earn, but that's what it happens when games are going to be competitive, paying you for playing them and selling items to help you excel in those games if you decide to invest in them. All right, everybody, thanks for sticking with me. This was a little bit of a longer video. If you let me know what you think. Do you not like these changes? Do you think it ruined the game? And also, what do you think of my Cake Town? Is it any good? All right, thanks. Bye.